Start recording. And there we go. All right. Good morning, Ultra Engineers. We're coming at you live in 2025. And today we have two very special guests today. We have two very famous celebrity game developers. We have the developer of SCP Nine-Tailed Fox and
Hello.
SCP Multiplayer Reborn, SCP Containment Breach Multiplayer Reborn, and they'll both have an opportunity to talk a little bit in a minute here. So let's get to it. Okay, so last week we floated the possibility of a new version of 3D World Studio 6, and we had a sign up page on the website. We had a page on the website about it, and a mailing list sign up. And I don't, from what I've seen, I've investigated this, and I've got like an estimate of the number of people who would be interested in a standalone level editor. And the question was, is there a bunch of old 3D World Studio users hanging around who would like a new version? And from what I saw, I don't think that that's something that we need to do right now. I think it's better to stay focused on the game engine, and just making the level editor and the game engine together the best possible user experience. However, I did run some tests last week. I took some time. First, I was able to download Blitz Plus from Mark Sibley's repository on GitHub, and I was able to compile it with one small change in one of the headers. I think I'll probably branch it and then make the fix that is needed for it to compile on Visual Studio 2022. But it did compile just fine. So Blitz Plus is its own compiler. It's a compiler for the Blitz Plus language. Um, so the first step was to compile the compiler. And then once that was working, the next step was to see if 3D World Studio would actually compile. And it took a few minor adjustments, but I actually get it to compile using Blitz Plus compiled on Visual Studio 2022, and it started just fine. Now, the old 3D World Studio, the problem is the last version of Windows it works on is Windows 7 because of internal changes to Windows or something. I don't know what it is exactly. But this is a shot of 3D World Studio 5.6 running on Windows 10, compiled with Blitz Plus, that was compiled with Visual Studio 2022, so it does work. Now, there's a lot of DLLs that the program uses for special functions that were not available in Blitz Plus. A lot of those things are written with the pure basic programming language, and those are compiled into DLLs that the program uses. And those DLLs were last compiled in the year 2006. So it's compiles. It's not working yet. I think the next step is to either recompile all of those dependencies that it has, or to eliminate all of those dependencies, or as much as possible. A lot of the stuff is very extraneous. Like there's an HTML browser built into there's a help system built into it with an HTML browser, or there'll be some little command that's just like one little like Win32 command that I put into a DLL. I think a lot of that stuff can be eliminated, if not all of it. So that's going to be the next thing I'm going to look at, is to see if I can eliminate all those dependencies so that it's just compiling in pure Blitz Plus, and then see what the results of that are. But it so far so good. I mean, it looks pretty promising. This is the first time I've attempted this in a long time, so it looks like it. We'll see what happens. Okay, so with us today we have the two very famous developers. And the first guy is the creator of SCP Nine-Tailed Fox. Now this is set in the universe of the original game SCP Containment Breach, and I think of it as like it's sort of like opposing force for Containment Breach. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, I would say that Opposing Force was one of the biggest inspirations for SCP-9 Told Fox. And as well, for some mechanics, it was Cry Fear, which was another Half-Life related thing.
And I think we can start with the video. We'll just watch the introduction here.
Oh boy.
Remember your training. Gotta find a weapon. Well, better than nothing.
Robot.
Just to point out, was made in 3D World Studio. Well, the rooms.
The cleanup is here. I won't go back there. Fuck! Who the fuck are you? Damn, we got him.
Enemy spotted! Cover me! Good job. Hey, follow me. There they are! We got company! I need some cover!
Tomorrow is the third birthday.
Very nice. So that was you used 3D World Studio for a lot of the level design.
Yes, and in fact, I'm still using it, and I'm still the owner of Windows 7 operating system. I have a dual OS thing installed on my computer, and fortunately, I have to use an unsupported operating system to use 3D World Studio.
Okay.
Hopefully not for long, but
Well, we'll yeah. That's what we're here to. That's what we're determining right now. And then we also have the developer of SCP Containment Breach Multiplayer Reborn. Take a look at the Steam page here. We'll have
There's no trailer because the game currently in early stage of developing, so there are only screenshots.
That's okay. So in this game, it's like Containment Breach, but it's like a co-op game, right?
Yeah, that's co-op game with fully rewritten code of original game.
Is it?
It's
How
more like
does?
a fork of. It's more like a fork of the Ultimate Edition. That's a recode of the game. We want to add a multiplayer to this game and co-op mode, like to play with your friends and to play official servers.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the original SCP Containment Breach was not written for multiplayer, and unfortunately, we've learned that pretty hard during the development.
Yeah.
Because
So
SCP-9 Told Fox is also a fork of SCP Containment Breach. It's technically a mod, but now it's like a standalone game.
that one's single player, right?
Uh,
SCP-9 Told Fox is multiplayer. Has multiplayer too, but it
Oh,
has like modes. It has waves and team deathmatch,
okay. I didn't realize that.
and
Okay.
also single player.
Okay.
In the
So
trailer, you've seen the first part was single player, and the second was multiplayer.
oh, okay, cool. So in multiplayer Reborn, I mean the original is a horror game, and is it difficult to make like a multiplayer game that's still a horror game?
uh, it's still a whole game. We don't change anything except adding multiplayer. We also want to make a shooter PvP mode called Breach mode.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm just
So
imagining like different situations where like you're trying to where you're trying to progress through the levels, and I'm just wondering if it was difficult to like how well did the original game transition into multiplayer, like all the sequences of events that you have to and things you have to unlock. Was that difficult?
The developing of multiplayer game is really difficult. Like yeah, we spending days doing single things in this game because it's really hard to code multiplayer base.
Yeah, adding a multiplayer part to a completely single player game. Like it was written, like the code was written, and like some events themselves were directed in a way like, okay, it's only will be like thought as only one person would see it.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, yeah, I mean, like, everybody has to be in like one room or in one area before something can happen, right? I mean, did you
Yeah,
encounter
that's why.
situations like that?
Well, I would say for my friend here that we also tried to do the co-op missions for our game, and there was a possibility to like I see my friend with me in the same room, but then literally the next room has some event and then just game crashes because it didn't expect it something with two players.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It seems like there would be a lot of interesting things there to deal with.
A lot of work. It's not impossible. I would say that it's not impossible, but it's just hard and
Yeah.
it takes
Just hard,
time.
just hard to write everything without any errors, glitches, and like optimize everything. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a hard work, just a hard work.
That's why Ultimate Edition actually I would say is a good base for a multiplayer because the Ultimate Edition has many things rewritten in a better state. This is something that we with SCP-9 Fox don't really have yet.
Okay. So if you had a version of 3D World Studio that was running on Windows 10, Windows 11, it would make your life easier.
Uh, Probably, but I want to talk something about like compatibility with our game. Our game is using Cabriolet. That's a fork of Sledge. So it compiles a map in a mesh file, but all our rooms from the game is saved to VMF file format, Wolf map file. So we need a compatibility with VMF to transfer all our rooms to 3DVS. 3DVS, yes.
The other thing I would say additionally, basically all the rooms were made in 3D World Studio. Then CBRE was created, and it was only able to read the 3D World Studio format, but it couldn't be able to write it. Right? It was using VMF files instead for saving. And now the issue is that if we're switching back to 3D World Studio, we need the ability to open the VMF format.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, that's probably not too difficult. But how do you do your light mapping in your whole process when you're designing the level? Like, where are light maps getting calculated?
Oh, it's 3D World Studio.
Oh, okay.
In my case, at least.
Okay.
In
Ninetale Fox
CBRE,
uses
it's CBRE.
Ninetale Fox uses 3D World 3D World Studio, but we're using Cabriolet instead because it have compatibility with Windows 10.
Right. Right.
That's the only one reason. 3DVS is better in many ways than Cabriolet.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll put some more time into it and see what I can see if I'm able to get it working. I mean, I didn't know if it was even going to compile, but we did that. We got that successfully, and it didn't take me very long. So I'll the next step is I'll just try either recompiling those dependencies or eliminating them, and then I'll have more information for you at that time.
Yeah, as I told you a while ago, I was feeling it was just like the issue of recompiling in the newer Blitz Plus version. But I think as far as I wouldn't lie, we did the debugging process on our end to see, okay, what was going on with 3D World Studio that it wasn't running on Windows 10. Something was hinting at I think user 32 library. Is that correct?
So that would be probably one of the DLL dependencies.
Yeah,
Or
because
let me think. See.
there was like an issue where the unlike how it is in Windows 7 and Windows 10, 3D World Studio was opening like lots of windows, like, before actually launching, and I feel like it's because it probably incorrectly read like some property, maybe some Windowses or like tooltips. I don't exactly remember.
No, the reason for that is because Blitz Plus doesn't have the ability to create a window that's hidden on startup, like by default when you create it. So the program creates
Yeah,
every window that it needs and then it hides it.
I see.
How hard would it be to convert your program to save in the format that the 3D world requires from your format to the format that's required in that versus just making a new system and where it would be easier just make the program with the add-on type of saving being modified outside the program that will go into the save format and then go into the JOS type of save format and retrieve.
The file conversion I'm not too worried about. I mean, the RMesh format. Took a look at the spec. That's who one of you guys said you use the RMesh format, right?
Yeah, it's a long time ago. Containment Breach still used B3D for all the rooms, but at one point it was switched to their own RMesh format, which basically it's more stripped down like things, like exactly what Containment Breach needed. It's like all saved there. So there's like a converter inside the SCP Containment Breach to convert B3Ds to RMesh.
Yeah, I'm
Unfortunately,
sure.
not backwards. And in SCP-9 Fox, it's still the same format. However, we had to modify it to include some things we wanted to have, like brushes or meshes without collisions for the optimizations reasons. And it's not really compatible anymore with original Containment Breach. It would have been nice for 3D World Studio to have literally just a direct saving into the RMesh, or in fact, an SCP-9 Fox RMesh version. I'm working on a new format which would mitigate some of the issues we're having with RMesh, so there probably will be another format.
Yeah, and I mean that stuff is very, very simple to do. I mean, you're talking like that. I mean, that would probably take me like an hour to do. That part is
I
not
mean,
hard.
it's literally going to be, same language, basically. Bliss 3D and Bliss Plus are not that far away from each other.
Yeah. Um,
The reason I asked that question is because every format that is different that needs the 3D world and continually changing the format would bog Josh down in the creation of the 3D world in its final state.
no, it's not a problem. Yeah, I'll the next step is I'll just look into this and see like how complicated I think it would be to have like 3D World Studio not just compiling but to have it actually running reliably on Windows 10. There's a limit to how much time that I can put into this, but it might be a very simple solution. I mean, it might be the kind of thing where I put 3 hours into it and it's done. So I would suggest like holding off on any plans, any conclusions until I've had a little bit more time to investigate it. But it does look promising so far. So let me ask you guys, what are your plans for the future? So Nine-Tailed Fox was released in 2022, and Containment Breach multiplayer has not been released yet. What are you guys' plans for the future of your games?
So about 3DVS, we want to remake all our rooms in 3D World Studio because 3D World Studio have a better lighting system. First of all, secondly, it supports normal maps and mesh bake, light map mesh bake. Because of that, we want to transit all our rooms to 3DVS. Yeah, that's the main goal behind the 3D World Studio program on that you want to modify.
Okay.
In our case, for me personally, it's easy to export some things in 3D World Studio. In CBRE, the way it was made that when you are exporting in RMesh, only after that, after like you select which file you want to put it in, the light map is created. In the 3D World Studio, you can create the light map once and then re-export the map however times you want. In my case, it's easy because we have multiplayer, and multiplayer map is separated into chunks for optimization. And it's easy to make it that multiple chunks have the same light map instead of me waiting each time to recompile, recalculate all the light maps. And another thing is way easy to place models like meshes. You just have a window, has all the models, you drag it into your world, it's there. In CBRE currently, you have to place a point entity. You have to select that it is a model, and then you have to specify which file it will be. And only after that it will load the actual model. In some cases, it might fail.
Okay. Well, I'll see what I can do this next week, and I'll let you guys know what the results of my next tests are. I have one more question. You have a closed beta test for the multiplayer Reborn game, right?
Yes, already.
Can I be a beta
I can even
tester?
send you key.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I can send you.
Yeah, I want to try it out.
And try CP Consult Fox too. One thing I wanted to point out, despite how many things was said about CBRE and how they aren't working, the good thing about CBRE is that that project is open source, and it allows us, the developers, to just, or the community, to extend the program to support multiple things or eliminate the issues that were described here. For example, CBRE's light mapping is not great. Well, that can be also changed with the community. How that will be with 3D World Studio? Will there be at least a source code available for us, the developers, to do our small tweaks that we can then propose to the main 3D World Studio thing?
I have not made any decisions on this at this time. I don't. Yeah, I can't answer that right now.
Okay. I understand maybe there is something about open source nature, maybe, but it does help many programs, even games in our case, because both games, well, at least SCP Fox has its source code available. Anyone can just fork it, modify it, do whatever they want.
You could always make a program that handshakes with the 3D World program so that your version of what you need to accomplish could be accomplished exteriorly and then have it handshake with what's the requirement in the 3D world, and then introduce that to Josh as a way that he could maybe bring it into the 3D world if it is very beneficial.
Well, I think the next step is to for me to just investigate, the user libs situation and see what that is, because I can't make any I can't make any decisions until I have complete information. So, getting that information, I think, is the most important step, and we can reconvene at that time if you wish. But right now, all I can say is I was able to compile Blitz Plus in Visual Studio 2022, and I was able to compile 3D World Studio in the resulting compiler, and it starts. And so whatever problem there was in just the startup system, that has definitely been solved. There's looks like there's remaining problems, and I don't know how hard those are to solve, but I will look into that next. I just wanted to show you guys like what I was able to do this week. So that's all for now on 3D World Studio. We'll have more information as that situation unfolds. And so check out SCP Nine-Tailed Fox on Steam. You can get it for free. It's free, right?
Of course.
Okay. And SCP multiplayer Containment Breach Multiplayer Reborn. You can't. It's not available. It's in closed beta right now, but you can add it to your wish list on Steam, and then you'll get notified when it comes out. And this really helps the developers out. Really, you should wish list both of these because we understand now the importance of Steam wish lists. So give these guys a thumbs up, add it to your wish list on Steam, and check them out. Thank you, guys. Golf claps all around.
Thank you.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we'll talk about Ultra Engine now. Last week we decided, initially I was at the beginning of the year I was like, we'll just do early access for 6 more months and add a bunch of other features, and we decided, I decided, no, I think this is time to transition to the full release. Like, people want to use it, but they don't want to use a beta. And that's completely understandable. And this is the list of things that need to be done. The game publish system, which was finished last week. I'll have an update coming out today, and that makes the Lua totally secure. I got that finally solved. That was a little bit tricky to figure out how to do it. I had to disable... there's a feature to split the game data zip file into multiple archives for each subfolder, and I had to disable that for Lua because if I didn't, then it would be possible to replace the zip file containing the Lua files, and you could place a Lua file in there that would say extract the contents of every other file in the game. So but once I did that, then I realized like the system is totally secure. I mean, like the NSA could probably crack it, but you would have to. It would take some very sophisticated hacking to get at that, beyond what anybody wants to do for a video game, probably. I implemented the entity set view range feature, this time without breaking lights. I was able to integrate FreeImage into the engine proper, and I just removed the DLL plugins. That's not going to be a feature. It's still, the code there, the command there is still in the core namespace, and I'm not going to remove it, but it's, that turned out to be something that's not important because we know like what file formats are important and what are not. Per project settings are now integrated, are now added, so you can have like a per project. So things like the texel resolution for the brushes, that's adjusted per project. So you can have one project that's using 1024 base texture size and another that's using 2048. We need to parse the Lua and C++ header files in order to generate those JSON files that tell the editor what properties are available for entities, for components, as well as what inputs and outputs are available in the flow graph. I just about have the Lua parsing code almost finished. It's very similar to how it works in LEDWorks. It's just a little bit simpler. And I did find some C++ header, a parser for C++ header files that outputs a JSON file that that stores all the classes and namespaces and everything found in the header file. And I think that's actually going to work for parsing C++ components. So that'll make our life easier. You won't have to edit those JSON files by hand anymore. I did add a In the asset browser, when you on that plus button, when you click on it, and there's a drop down that says add folder, add component. You can also add a custom shader family, and it will do that. The code for that is going to get a little bit more refined. I'm still going to revise that a little bit, but the basic functionality is there. I still need to do the basic water shader. I want to integrate the volumetric lighting. What the heck? Post-processing effect by Klepto 2. I just wrote this. I just typed all this up like half an hour ago. We need to finalize the default color scheme and icons. I kind of tinted things with a little bit more of a blue-gray tint that matches the forum and the documentation. And I'll still be revising that. I'm bringing back a little bit more color into the icons and stuff at first I wanted to go very like monochrome so that just to try to maintain that consistency. But now I think now that the UI is established, I think it's okay to start bringing some color back in. I need to revise. I want to totally revise the 2D drawing system because I don't like how it works, and it's probably more complicated than it needs to be. And then probably the last thing I'll do is finish the undo redo system in the editor, and then finalize the documentation. And we had some discussion last week. Let's see. Well, actually, I'll talk about. Okay, so we had I think this one will be shorter. We had a lot of discussion about the possibility of an RPG template last week, and I think it's a great. I think Fish kind of like initiated this discussion really, but I think and a lot of people were interested. I think it's a great idea, but the way I would suggest doing this is you really need 3 people for this. I think teams of 3 are good. It makes the communication work really well. You need one person who's the lead programmer, and they're responsible for all the code. They have the final authority on everything the way everything is coded. Then you have the level designer, and they're sort of designing the environment on on a bigger scale. And then you have the lead artist, and they're sort of working at a more detailed. They have a more detailed focus where they're focusing on the individual models and materials and textures and such. And I think you need those 3 people to be able to do the entire project themselves. And then everyone else, I think, should be there to assist them with whatever they need. But I do think it is important for the person who has all the responsibility. You need one person who has all the responsibility in one area, and they also need to have all the authority. So that's the approach that has worked for us in the past. We were able to do the first-person shooter template that way, and that's what worked out well for us. There might be other approaches you could take, but that's the one that I know works. At this time, like, a lot of people like the idea, but no one's volunteering for any of those roles yet. I mean, the idea is only a week old, so maybe when people finish up whatever they're working on now, maybe this will be something that they want to keep in mind in the future. Because I'll totally, if anybody wants to try this, I'll totally support it. But that's what you really need. Like having 12 different people who each do a little part doesn't work so well in real life. What tends to work well is a small team, and then everyone else is just there to support whatever they need. But you really do, like, each of these people really does have to be king of their own domain. Yeah, I mean, they have to be like captain of their part of the ship. I think that's, in my experience, that is what tends to produce good results with modding projects and game projects. But of course, you guys are, can form teams and work together any way you want. Just whatever works for you is good. Okay.
What I suggest is wait until the full version of Ultra come out, and then let the people use the Ultra in all the different various ways before they pick what area that they want to be the lead of.
Yeah, for sure. Do we have any discussion of the? Let's see. Oh, Discord is so confusing. Damn, there's a lot of people in this room. Anything you guys want to add about that?
I think I agree with James here. We should just, or they, because I'm not going to be a part of it, but they should just start just throwing ideas, and then when 1.0 comes out, that'll be a safe time to get to work because you don't have to worry about some function or some API change happening midway through the project. But yeah, right now it's just throw ideas of what you want to see, and then just strip that down to a core component. Like the first person shooter is just the player with one weapon and can interact with stuff and shoot a monster. And that's it, pretty much. So
Yeah,
I'm
it's
done.
funny. Like our game. If you put our game, like if you wrote it out on paper, what the first person shooter thing does, it's like you push a button to open a door, you walk through the level and some scary sounds play, and then some monsters ambush you. Like on paper, it actually sounds very boring, but like the actual like execution of it is where what makes it fun.
Yeah, like we wanted to, again, I say this many times, we wanted to do more. We wanted like multiple weapons and like ammo pickups and health pickups and everything, but we just decided it wasn't,
Yeah, I also would suggest just focus on a small part of a RPG game instead of
Yeah.
making the next Skyrim or something.
Yeah, you just got to find out what makes an RPG an RPG, and then just focus on that and add like one or two weapons or one or two skills or one or two traits or whatever, and allow the expandability on that.
Yeah, if you can just like deliver like 60 seconds of something that feels like a game, then once you have that, it's very easy to expand from that. And it really like forces you to focus hard on the quality.
Yeah, but starting is always the hardest part.
Okay. So and we also I'm thinking a lot about documentation. Uh, and there's a discussion thread here for your ideas on how the documentation should be laid out. It's kind of I'm like thinking about stuff that's like beyond just like here's this this is how you use the model editor tools. Here's the mesh reduction tool. These are the options you can have, and this is how it works. And here's the command documentation. My problem is if I understand all the commands, I have zero problems like translating that into gameplay. I can very easily say, "Oh, okay, this is how I would do," everything that, and it's hard for me to. So I think there's a little bit of a gap for a lot of people between knowing what the commands do and being able to translate that into gameplay. And that's something that Leadworks never was really able to close that gap. And I'm very interested in being able to do that with the new documentation. I think having an entire big section on the flow graph, starting with components and then how those fit together in the flow graph. I think that's a good starting point because the flow graph is really, really powerful, and I want to expand it in the future. But I think that would be a good starting point for like gameplay. But any other ideas you have, especially about the specific structure, if I just know what the titles of the articles are, then I can fill it all out. But it's just like I don't know how to make a cohesive outline of all the different tutorials that everyone needs. I want it to like all fit together and not just be like a random. I don't want it to be like a bunch of random questions. I want it to like fit together to illustrate how. I don't know. I just want to like transmit the knowledge I have to the user base. But it's hard for me to figure out how to organize that. So if you guys have any ideas or examples, you can post examples from other engines or other game development systems, or it doesn't even have to be a game engine or a game system. It can just be documentation in general. Just helping, if you can help me like figure out what this outline should look like. I'm ready to write the articles, but I'm just it's difficult for me to figure out how to organize it. So if any feedback you have on that is definitely helpful.
You should maybe try to ask the questions which are the most common or most often used functions within a game. For example, every game at some point needs a raycast, yeah, and maybe people don't know what a raycast is, or how they perform a raycast from the scene or from the camera to the scene. Because if you want to interact with the game, you need to interact with the most people interact with the mouse, right? So at this point, they need the raycast. If you want to get information, for example, if you look at an item to keep it up, then yeah, you also send a raycast. So I think you should maybe try to find out, or we should maybe try to find out what are the most common used functions, and yeah, start with this.
Should these be okay? So this like higher level tutorials, should we be focused on? Should they be programming tutorials, or should they be showing how to, or do we want to try to show how to use the flow graph without any code?
What I would suggest is there be a client side, a server side, and a GUI side of documentation. And then there's, of course, the programming in Lua, programming in C++, and the different accomplishments according to how you're setting up for the client to have certain access, and the server side of those that's operating on the actual owns the program, able to manipulate the program on the outside. And of course, the GUI display of how the function works with the engine of the different manipulation of the display that's being accessed, so that you don't have to go into programming in order to accomplish what the GUI can do. Because you can either program it in or have the engine itself accomplish the task, like placing trees, terrain, etc., under the GUI system.
Any other ideas on how we should organize this?
I think the first place you should start is how to create a box room, because that's where I usually, when I look at other engines, I go, oh, well, how hard is it to create a box room? And it usually is very complicated or very stupid. And then I just close out the window because I'm the one who use an engine that takes 100 steps to make a box room.
I think you should split it up even before in level design and programming, and I think you should not be the person teaching people how to program. Maybe you can link to, or you have some good references, some tutorials you can link at, because I think there are really good written tutorials or basic tutorials how to use Lua, how to use C++, and yeah, and just split it up even before. So you have a level design side, you have the code side, the components, and yeah.
For Lua, I already have. Lua is a simple enough language that I've actually already written documentation that tells you like literally everything you need to know. That's in Leadworks and people like that. With C++, I think if you're using C++, it's kind of implied that you already know what you're doing. And it's too complicated. There's like just too many features in the language that I don't think I would attempt to do that. But with Lua, I think it's okay to just tell people the things they need to know because it's only a few pages. It's a very simple language, and it's also a lot easier. Like I mean, the Lua. How big is the Lua documentation? The Lua reference? I mean, it's probably like a 500-page book, and it's mostly stuff that you don't need to know. So for C++, I agree with you. For Lua, I think it's okay to just start them from the like literally from the very beginning.
I think you have already Lua, right, from Leadworks.
Yeah, I'll just copy that over and update it a little bit, but
I still think you need like just a short section going over the editor on how easy and intuitive it is to like make a box room or something. Like you can like it goes over like how to make a brush and how to duplicate, and then you can add how to add lights, how to do a probe, bake, and the environment settings, just like stuff to get people started. I mean, beveling and tessellations and painting is more of an art than anything, but I think a good place to start with the editor is just like how to make a box room.
we need a section on like basically the asset browser and all the other like little parts of because that there's actually that was probably like 60% of the development time was spent on that. The asset like the model editor and the texture editor and all that. So that's one section, like all the different parts of the program and then of the editor, and then another section of level design. I think would, like you're saying, like starting with that it's all in the scope of like this is how you make your level, starting with how to make a box room, and then on top, and then have like okay how to add gameplay, and that starts with the components and finishes with the flow graph.
Yeah.
In LeadWorks, there is sample programs that you can cut, paste, and it actually works, like the moving box and other things that you can cut, paste. It actually contains itself different things that those that's coming on board to the engine and learning, let's say in Lua, how to create a box and have the camera where it's focused or etc. already programmed in, so that they can look at a reference and then get ideas of their own according to looking at the different ways that the programs can be done in the engine.
We already have that.
Yeah, well, we have that for the programming API documentation, and in fact, we have something even better, like that we've added. The new engine can download files from a remote URL. So instead of like in the Leadworks documentation, you oftentimes had to like download a zip file that was accompanying that tutorial. And what we can do now is we just store any required files on my GitHub account, and you just copy and paste the code, and it just automatically downloads the extra files that you need, which is pretty awesome, I think. I think he's referring to. I think he's referring to the tutorials, though. Like there's some Lua tutorials that have like code examples. Is that right?
Correct. That's what I was referencing. but it gives the person some exposure so that they can expand on it. But I didn't want that lost in the new engine because that was on the lead works and not being transferred over to the more modern Ultra, where some folks ain't going to ever have lead works and never be exposed to that type of environment.
Yeah, we can. I think we can do that. Um, okay, so it's like editor in general is number one section. Number two section is level design. Number three section is gameplay with a focus on components in the flow graph.
Yeah.
And beyond
Yeah.
that, I don't know what to do. So it's okay to send me examples from other engines if you think their tutorial setup, like their outline of their tutorials. I'm mostly focused on like the overall, like mm, the overall structure of the articles. If I know the title of each article, then I can write the article. But like I have no idea how to organize it.
Well, I think like what Andy was saying, like how to do ray casting, how to do collision triggers, how to do um maybe casting or something. Just I don't know what the programming side of the things look like. I just know that it's probably really really important that you tell people, hey, you can actually create rods in the model editor. You can actually unwrap in the model editor. You can you can bevel your brushes. You can this is a good way how to vertex paint. Or you can this is how you do glass or whatever.
Best
Yeah.
Um,
thing I used was Core.
What's that?
The best thing I've used was Core. They were funded by Epic Games.
Like the
They have
tutorials?
a yeah, all their API is hooked to tutorials and examples, working examples. I used it for 2 years,
Okay.
and it was so easy to use. And it used Lua.
Okay, I'll take a yeah, feel free to send me a link to that or I'll just look it up later, but I'll definitely
I think it's yeah. I'll get it real quick and I'll tell you.
okay, thanks. Yeah, I mean, we have right here, we have
Yeah,
this is the
coregames.com.
okay, I'll check it out.
Yeah, I used it for 2 solid years. I recreated Portal and all kinds of stuff in it.
Okay, cool. I mean, we have documentation of the raycast right here with a code example, so it's hard for me to like
well, I'm just saying, like maybe, like how, like, well, obviously you have to cover how to create a new component, and then maybe like you should create you should create those examples into something more useful than just a spinning line that with a ball attached to it. Like I don't know, maybe like a laser beam that stretches a sprite from point A to point B, and the math is useful for the end user because they now know how to stretch a sprite accurately, but it also goes over the 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 ray trace system, and it's reusable, and people
okay.
can add to it.
So I think the challenge is how to put all of that into a cohesive structure
Yeah.
and it just not be like random ideas. Because I mean that's something like if you to me it's like yeah I can do that in like 3 seconds, but is that I mean how
Or
is that what people actually need?
Yeah, I'd
hmm,
copy Core 100%.
Okay, I'll definitely check that out. Thank you for the tip.
Yeah, they were funded for about 100 some odd million by Epic. And then Unreal Fortnite kind of took over from there.
Hmm.
yeah, Fortnite ruins everything.
Yeah, they create the creative mode basically shut down Core because Core was doing the same thing.
Josh, just be careful of copyright from the other source. Just be independent from them when you create your own way of documentation.
I'm just really looking to see like what topics do people think um, are should actually be written about. Not that, I mean, the content itself isn't so important to me. It's more just like, what do people even want to know? It's hard for me because I struggle to, like, I don't know, like once I know how the commands work, I just have this, like, I think I'm actually like a really good game developer. I just don't develop games, but I think I'm actually like really, it just comes to me naturally. Maybe. I don't know. Anyways, so I
That's
think
just
that's
a friendly advice, just so you don't get in trouble in any way.
yeah, for sure. I appreciate it. So that's all I've got for this week. Does anybody have anything to add before I stop the video? Okay, no problem.
How's everyone liking the new theme? We went from a navy blue. I actually like it because it's darker.
It looks cool, yes, but you forgot some pieces. For example, in the material editor, there are the old colors still in the drop down boxes on the collapse boxes.
Yeah, there's a few spots where it's not, where it's still the dark gray. Do you guys like the solid gray better, or the little bit of a blue where it matches the forum?
I like the blue.
The blue for sure.
Yeah, because the old theme kind of reminds me of like dark theme when it was like cool 10 years ago. But it's not like dark. It's like that light gray. But I actually like it like darker
What
than
kind of
that now.
monitor do you have?
I have an LG ultra wide. I toned it down a little. Like I probably increased the saturation a little bit because my eyes really like saturated colors. But I probably have it on some weird profile that makes all the colors saturated.
You do often say like things like, "Oh, that that screenshot is totally black," or I don't know. I would love to see your monitor.
Well, the only way to actually see it is to actually because everyone's eyes works differently. So the only way to see it, is to actually like visit me and look at the monitor. But
Visit you and transplant your eyeballs.
no, but for color reference, I just look at my MacBook because
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think it looks a little bit more like. Well, I mean, at first my concern with the UI was I just wanted it to look consistent, because that's really actually like really hard to do. And now that it's all the UI stuff is worked out, now I'm kind of like, I want it to look fun and not intimidating. And I know it's like, it's a very like, the color of it is a very superficial thing, but
no, I actually like it.
yeah.
The icons on the side pop more, because
I really like the icon for the scene button. The icon for the flow graph button, I think that needs to be replaced or improved or something. But yeah, I like, I don't know, like when the dark blue and then like the really bright colors that look like Legos sort of, I think is a nice look. And it looks.
and I think and since the blue's a little bit darker, the colors actually pop with the the rotating tools and everything. Yeah, because before you had it like set up where you had you had some icons monochrome or antichromatic, was just white, and then you had all these colorful icons, and it was like clashing a little bit. But yeah, I think if you just made everything colorful and fun, like you said, everything will match. Look great because you still. But yeah,
Yeah, and I definitely plan to add like customizable color schemes, and I have some color schemes of my own that I use that are pretty, like I have one for like Cyberpunk 2077 that's like yellow and purple and pink, and yeah,
I think I made one.
It's such a gamer thing.
Yeah, I think I made one that's like just it's literally just copy and pasting colors from Visual Studio.
Well, it was because of the gamer Opera version of
Yeah,
Opera, the
yeah,
Opera browser. It's probably spyware, but I really like the interface.
yeah.
I think the interface looks so good, and I was like, oh man, I know this is like so like patronizing to me, but like they totally like they totally designed that for somebody like me.
Right.
I love
And
it.
a lot of programs don't let people change things anymore, which is a shame.
Uh, yeah. What is the Opera browser called? The gamer version?
I don't know.
It's like G browser or something like that.
Yeah, it's something stupid name like that. I don't know. I forget.
GX.
Yeah,
GX.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. I actually like really like it.
I use Edge.
yeah. Andy and I are boring.
All right.